Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome. Today's daf is Be'ah Chaf Beis. We begin 16 lines from the top of the Amud, right at the 2 dots. The Mishnah gave us 3 items where we find a chumrah. Rabbi Gamliel was machmer in accordance with Shitas Beis Shammai. The second of which is Ve'ein zoik finas ha-menorah. You cannot straighten out. You cannot get the menorah upright again. We're assuming we're speaking about lifting a tipped menorah. Micah of it, what's wrong with that? It's Yom Tov. Why can't you lift a menorah on Yom Tov? Amar Rav Chinina bar Bisna. We're not speaking about simply picking up a fallen menorah. This menorah is comprised of parts, of sections. It collapsed, it fell apart. He'd like to reassemble it on Yom Tov. The Mechzik Boine. It appears like he's building, he's constructing. The Beis Shammai Savri, Beis Shammai hold you can't do that. Yesh binyan bekelim, and the Bach adds Yesh stira bekelim. The concept of building and demolishing applies to kelim as well. You can't go ahead and reassemble the menorah even on Yom Tov. But Beis Hillel Savri, according to Beis Hillel, there's no concern. They hold ein binyan bekelim, ve'ein stira bekelim. Building, demolishing, that applies to in-ground structures, buildings, houses, tents. But a kli, the concept of baina and seisha doesn't apply. Rashi says, well, if you weave, you've done the malach of oireg, you cut, you sew, it's a malach on its own, sewing, teifer, memachi. But the concept of baina only applies to a binyan or a oyel. So when Rabbi Gamliel says you can't be zoikev as a menorah, he was referring to reassembling a collapsed menorah in accordance with Beis Shammai, that the concern of binyan applies. Ula ikla lebei Rabbi Yehuda. Ula came to the home of Rabbi Yehuda on the night of Yom Tov. Come Shammai, the shamas, the attendant of Ula, got up, zokafla l'shraga. He straightened out, he tilted the lamp, which caused the oil to run to the back of the lamp, away from the flame, which brings about a premature extinguishing of that flame. Rabbi Yehuda, the host, asks his guest, Ula, what's going on here? How can you allow these shamas to do that? To tinker with a lamp on Yom Tov, to cause it to go out early? Hanoisin shemen bener. Chayev mishum mavir. This is on Shabbos. If a person adds some oil into a lamp which is already burning, he's chayev because of the malacha of mavir. He's lighting a fire, he's adding to the fire. And likewise, if he removes some oil from a burning lamp, chayev mishum mechaba. He's chayev because he did a malacha of kibbutz, he's extinguishing. Amalei. So Ulu responded to Rabbi Yehuda, Lavad, I tell you, you know what, I wasn't really mindful. He wasn't doing it with my permission. It was something that he decided to do on his own. Of course, I would not have allowed him to remove oil from the lamp, even on Yom Tov, because you're not allowed to put out a fire on Yom Tov. Interesting Taisus here on the side. It's going to be the third Taisus from the top. Taisus seeks to explain the halacha of adding and removing. We consider it to be mavir, mechaba. Why? What are you doing when you're adding oil or removing oil? So Taisus, I'll just read it inside. Taisus says, the reason is not because he's expediting the kibui. He's causing it to go out earlier than expected. By removing oil, he is hurrying the kibui. If that were so, then it wouldn't be a concern on Yom Tov, because it's just a goyrem. He's bringing about a premature extinguishing of that flame. Ugram kibui Yom Tov shari, that's mutar on Yom Tov. Afa b'shem emar kibuya. U'b'Shabbos nami ene chayv. Even on Shabbos, he wouldn't be chayv. So that could not be the concern of the Gemara, that he's bringing about a premature kibui. Elahanu Thomas says to us, you know what the problem here is? At that very moment, when he removes some oil, interesting concept. Taisa said when you remove oil from the burning lamp, you are actually diminishing in some way. You're some way darkening. You're taking away the flare of the flame. The lo yochel lanhuri kuli hai, taking away the ability of that flame to burn properly. Ki ika shemen muot bener. When there's less oil, the flame is less bright. Perhaps the oil has to travel farther. Whatever the reason is, l'kach nir ke kibud appears like kibud. So Tosfos explains that adding oil increases the brightness of the fire. Removing oil takes away, diminishes the power of that ner. So on Shabbos, on both accounts, it's a malacha. One is mavir, one is mechaber. On Yom Tov, mavir wouldn't be a problem, of course. You're allowed to light on Yom Tov, you're allowed to increase the brightness of a lamp on Yom Tov. But the problem was removal of oil, which is mechaber, which isn't mutter even on Yom Tov. And that was the problem that Rabbi Yehuda had with Ulal Shamas. So he challenged him. He says, "What's going on?" He says, "You're right. It wasn't upon my instruction." Continues the Gemara. Right to that. Omar Rav Kanba Shari. Kanba means removal of that blackened tip sitting on the wick, on the burning wick. That's mutter on Yom Tov, although you're somewhat extinguishing the burning portion of that blackness. But it's in order to enable the flame to burn better, and it's mutter on Yom Tov. Boy minei Abba Ma'amartim Abaya. Abba Ma'amarti asks Abaya the following question. We know that you're allowed to do malachos on Yom Tov, l'tzorech oichel nefesh. So to prepare food, you can do malachos. What about for the sake of other types of personal benefits? Other types of hana? Is malacha allowed? For instance, ma'u l'chabes es haner b'pnei davar acher. Can one put out a lamp to enable Tashin Shamita, which can't take place in the presence of a ner? So it's not oichel nefesh, but it is for personal benefit. Amalei Abaye sort of avoided the question. He says, Efshe b'bayis acher. You can take the lamp over to another room. So avoid the problem. Or tashmish in the other room. Einli b'bayis acher mai. What if he doesn't have another room? He responded, Efshe lasle mechitza. Go ahead and make a curtain, make a partition in front of the lamp. Einli lasle mechitza mai. It doesn't have a curtain. Create a mechitza. What then? All of it's a kli. You can take a kli and overturn it on the nair. Eila kli mai doesn't have a kli. What should he do? Amalei. Finally, he says, osir. You can't put out an air because that's not called achila, even though it's a tzorech. But a malacha can't be done for that sake. Eisvei. So Abba Bar Marta responded with a kasha from a brisa, which seems to indicate otherwise. You can do malacha for other purposes. You can't extinguish a burning log on Yom Tov. If the motive is to preserve the material of that log. If the point is to prevent the home from getting full of smoke or smoking up the pot, in that case it's mutter. So kibui is mutter for the sake of a personal tzorech, even though it's not oichel nefesh. So why is it different than putting out the flame? In the question, in the shaila that I presented to you, Abai. Malaisa, Abai responds, you're right. I hear Rabbi Yehuda. That brisa is authored by Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that just as you could do malacha for oichel nefesh mamish, you can do it even for machshirei oichel nefesh, as we're going to learn later on Daf Chav Ches B'ezras Hashem. And therefore, you can extend the heter to all types of personal benefits and needs. And that's why you can put out the bekas, the burning log, to avoid smoking up the home, etc. And likewise, you can put out a flame for Tashma Shamita. Kika Mina no Rabban. I was referring to Shittas Rabban that malacha is only allowed for pure Eichel Nefesh. It's limited to food preparation only, not to other Tzorchei Haguf. And therefore, I told you can't put out the flame if it's not needed for food preparation. Here comes another shaila in similar vein. Abai asks Rabba, what about extinguishing a fire, a burning fire on Yom Tov? If someone's life's in danger, like with boiler, there's no question they can be put it out. That would be put even on Shabbos. My question applies to a case where he's going to lose his house, he's going to have to eat outside. What is the halacha there? Amalei also, he responds, it's also, although There's a lot to gain from putting out the flame, but it's not purely Eichel Nefesh, it's Asr. Esvei, now Abaye asks Rabbah, what about the Beitzah which says, you can't put out a burning log if the point is to preserve, to save the wood material. However, the point is to save the home from getting full of smoke, or likewise the pot, it's mutter. Apparently, kibui is mutter even if it's not strictly for the sake of Eichel Nefesh. Hi, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi responds, yeah, that's Rabbi Yehuda's shita, who extends the heter beyond strictly Eichel Nefesh, and therefore anything which entails personal hana would justify malacha. Hi, Rabbi Yehuda. Kika aminan al Rabban. I was responding in accordance with Shittas Rabbanan, that malacha is only mutter for the sake of Eichel Nefesh, and therefore, in your case, you're not allowed. Furthermore, by minir Rav Ashi ma'amemar. Rav Ashi asks Amemar the following question: Ma'u lichol sa'ayin b'yomtiv. What about applying k'choil, some sort of eye ointment, eye paint, to one's eye on yomtiv? It involves a malacha of kaisev, etc. Can it be done on yomtiv for the sake of refuah, to heal a person's eye? Now, heichadika sakana, if it involves sakana, if a person's eye is in danger, could go in, for instance, in the following conditions: rira, there's pus forming in the eye; ditza, there's a sharp pain; dama, there's a blood accumulation; dimasa, it's tearing; kadachta, there's fever developing in the eye; utchilas achla. If it's at the initial stage of all these conditions, there's no question that it's mutter. Tafilu b'Shabbos shari, even on Shabbos you would be allowed to do this, because a malfunctioning eye can actually have an effect on the entire guf. It could place his life in danger. So of course you can do these things for a fool. My question applied to the end stage of this experience, of this condition, where his life isn't anymore in danger. Or he's just trying to enhance the performance of his eye. What is the halacha there? Can we do these malachas on Yom Tov? Amalei Asa, he responds, of course it's Asa, it's not Eichel Nefesh. Esvei, well, he asked him, what about the Beitzah in Mechaben Esabakas, that Beitzah that we mentioned earlier, where it seems they can do malach of kiboy for the sake of tzarech, even if it's not going to provide food. So what's wrong with applying the k'chel for the sake of his eye? Vishani lei, Amemar responded, Kiddush anin, exactly as we answered earlier, that Beitzah is Rabbi Yehuda, who stretches the heter to non-essentials as well, to other tzrachim as well. Whereas the Rabbanan hold that it could only be done for Eichel Nefesh, and this is not Eichel Nefesh, it doesn't qualify. So we had 3 discussions in the Gemara, all running along the same track, and the conclusion is, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Malacha is mutar on Yom Tov, even if it's not strictly Eichel Nefesh. For instance, mechabe saner for tashmish, mechabe adleika to avoid burning out the home and forcing him to eat outside, putting the k'chel in the eye to enhance its performance. According to Rabbanan, malachas and yantiv could only be done strictly for eichel nefesh purposes. Ameimar shari lim k'chel Ameimar allowed k'chel to be applied to one's eye min nachri if it was done by a non-Jew bis shabbata, even on Shabbos. So he held that even if it's a non-critical refuah, a nachri can do it on Shabbos. Ikedarmi, there was another version, Amemar Gufei. Amemar himself allowed a guy to do it for him. Kochal eina menachar b'Shabbat. He allowed a non-Jew to apply k'chayil to his eye on Shabbos. Amali Rav Ashi Amemar. Rav Ashi asks him, "My daitach, where are you coming from? Why are you allowing this?" Da'amar Ula. Is it because Ula said, Da'amar Ula b'rei Rav Ilai, called tzarchei chayla, all the needs of an ill person, oisin al dinachar b'Shabbos can be performed by a guy. V'amar Rav Nuna, called of a she'em by sakana, even though it doesn't involve sakanas nefashos, oimer l'nachir v'oiseh. Chacham suspended the general isser of amir la'akam. In general, you don't have a guy do a malach of you, but if it's the sake of a chayla, even if it's not yesh b'sakana, it's just an ailment which doesn't place his life in danger, you can have a nachir do it for you. I understand that, but Hani Mili, that only applies if the Yisrael is not really assisting, is not aiding and abetting the guy in the malacha. Then we can have a nachri do it. Aval mar, but in your case, you're helping the nachri apply the k'chel. How? The ka amitz, because you're closing a pasach and opening your eye. You're closing and opening and allowing the kachel to be absorbed in your eye. You're involved in the procedure. How could you allow that? Amalei, Amema responded to Rav Ashi. Ikar Rav Zvid, the kai kavasach. You know what? Rav Zvid actually holds like you. He also asked me the same question. How can I allow the guy to do this if I'm helping him in the process? Vishanile, you know what I answered him? Misayeya ein boy mamish. The guy is doing the malacha. I'm just a recipient. I'm helping him out. This slight assistance, Misayeya, doesn't have tangibility, doesn't have significance. It's still mutter. Says Rashi, 10 lines from the bottom of the Amid. Amid to Pasach. So he asks Ameimar, how could you allow the guy to apply the k'chel? Aren't you helping him out? Soigeir, upeseach, rise'enav, lachas hak'chel. You're opening and closing your eyes to absorb the k'chel. He responded, you know what? You're not on your own. Ikar of Zvid. Sheyamachshali kamois. Zvid also used to ask me the same question. And you know what happened? I answered him. Vishanile uparaktiloi. That what? Masayeya ein by mamish. Misha eino yisem malacha mamish. When one is not really doing the malacha, ela masayeya ma'at. He's just helping out a little. Kihai, like in this case. Ubelavhu. Even without his generous help, misabda, it would be done regardless. We don't give it chashivas, we don't give it credence, we don't reckon with it. And since the guy could have done it on his own without my help, I'm not really part of the equation. Vachi Amar b'sechas Shabbos b'matzni, as the Gemara Shabbos says. Gabezeh yachal ben zen yachal. Reuven and Shimon both doing the malacha. Reuven has the ability to do the malacha, and Shimon doesn't. So they're both doing it together, and really Reuven is the primary player. He's the one that can do it. Shimon doesn't have the ability to do it on his own. What's the halacha? Who's responsible? Yachal Chayiv. Reuven, who can do this malacha, he has the ability to do it on his own. He is held accountable. Sheni Yachal Pater. Shimon is not Chayiv. Although he's helping him out. He's just an auxiliary to Reuven. He's just secondary to Reuven, who's the Ikar Oisem Malacha. He's the one who's doing it. He's the one who's Chayiv. In this case, the guy is the one applying the Chayil. Even though I'm helping him a bit, so the bottom line is that any refuah, even if it's not a davar sheyesh b'sakana, could be done through a nachri, and even in the case where he's helping him a bit, Messiah ein b'mamish. Ameimar shara lemichel eina b'yom tov shenish or shoshana. Furthermore, Ameimar allowed a Yisrael to apply k'chel to his eye on the second day of Yom Tov, which is only midrabanan, even though it was Rosh Hashanah. So although you're not meant to do a refuah, which doesn't involve sakana, not meant to do it on Yom Tov, as we explained earlier, but on the second day Yom Tov, even though it was the second day Rosh Hashanah, he allowed it, and the Farshim explain, since second day Yom Tov is only midrabanan, nowadays we know that the Ikar Yom Tov is the first day. We're proficient with the calendar system. We know that the first day is the Ikar, second day is only the Minig Avosenu B'Yodenu, as we had back at the beginning of the Masechta. So on the second day we follow Rabbi Yehuda's Shita, as explained earlier. Rabbi Yehuda holds that even Machshir Echel Nefesh can be done on Yom Tov, even a Malacha which is not directly benefiting the consumption process. It's just a Tzoyrech Haguf, that can be done on Yom Tov as well. The second day Yom Tov, which is the Rabbanan, will make it like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore Ameim are allowed a refuah to be done on the second Yom Tov, although it involved a malach. Once again, Rav Ashi asks him, how can you allow this? We know that Rava said, mace, if you have a mace lying before you awaiting Kvura, Yom Tov Rishon, it's the first day Yom Tov, is asked by Amamin. A non-Jew can go ahead and bury him. Yom Tov Sheni, if it's the second day Yom Tov, we go down a notch. He's asked by Yisrael. Even a Yisrael could tend to his kvura. Va'afilu b'shnei yom tovim shel Rosh Hashanah. Even if it's the second day of Rosh Hashanah, we apply this kula. A Yisrael can do the kvura. That's because it's a mace. And when it comes to a mace, on account of kavod habriyos, Chacham suspended the dini d'Rabbanan. So on the second Yom Tov, even the second Rosh Hashanah, which perhaps is more chamar, as we're going to see in a minute, Even Yisrael can tend to the mace. Masha'ekin b'Beitzah, as opposed to the Shaila of the Beitzah, Shenolda b'Yontiv, which we had back in the beginning of the Masechta. We don't treat the second day any different than the first day. So, for instance, if the egg was laid on the first day, you can't say, well, let me have it on the second day. Either way, Mimanavshach. Because only one day is Kodesh and one day isn't. So, if yesterday was Kodesh, well, today is Choy, let me have it. If today is Kodesh, then it was laid yesterday during the weekday. You don't say that by an egg. Rather, as we explained back in the beginning of the Masechta, Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah is different than your typical Yom Tov. We treat both days as one continuous, a single, uninterrupted entity of Zman Kedusha. The reason was because of the Edom, which had a deadline, past which we don't accept their testimony after the Mincha of the first day, which is the third day of Elul. We don't accept their testimony, and we continue keeping the day B'Kedusha, knowing full well that we're only going to be Makabel the Eidos tomorrow, in which case at that point we're going to be observing 2 days Rosh Hashanah, but not out of uncertainty. It's pretty clear that it's going to be tomorrow, not today. We still continue observing Yom Tov. That gives it a din of Kedusha Achas, as we explained back in the beginning of the Masechta, and therefore, as opposed to your typical Yom Tov of Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot, over there we say, really, Nichutz La'aretz, 1 day is Yom Tov. We keep 2 days, we keep the Minna going, but technically the first day is the real Yom Tov, the second day is only the Rabbanon, and there's room for Kula, but on Rosh Hashanah, you can't say that. So when it comes to a mace, we're Mekel. Even the second day of Rosh Hashanah, we allow the Yisrael to attend to the Kfur. But when it comes to other halachas, like the Beitzah Shenoda, or like doing malachas, for instance, applying the Chayil to one's eye, we treat both days of Rosh Hashanah equally. So how could you, Rav Ashi, is asking, Amemar, how could you allow this malacha on the second day of Rosh Hashanah? It's not Eichel Nefesh. We can't pass like Rabbi Yehuda in this case. There's no room to be lenient on the second day over the first day. Amemar responds, Ano Kanador Svirli. You know what? I hold like Nardoi, the Amri. They hold Afa Beitzah. Even when it comes to other halachas like the egg, second day Rosh Hashanah is treated like any other second day Yom Tov. We don't consider both days of Rosh Hashanah like one continuous entity. Why are you questioning? Why are you challenging? Where are you coming from? Why do you consider 2 days of Rosh Hashanah as one entity? Dilma ma'abri leila El, right? Because they might add a day to El, which means, another way of saying that we're concerned about that eventuality, the Edom might come after Mincha. I'm going to add another day to Elul, and they'll only be accepted the next day. In which case, at that point, we have 2 days Yom Tov, observed not on account of uncertainty. It's one continuous Vadai Kedusha. Right? That's where you're coming from. And Adori didn't hold it at. Why? Ha'amar Rav Chinana bar Kahana. He said like this: it never happened. From the time of Ezra onward, we never find that Elul was extended. It was never a leap Elul. In other words, what he's saying is, it actually never happened, except for that one time in history. It never happened that the Edom actually arrived too late, in which case we observed both days Yom Tov Machmas Vadai. So, your svar is that we have to always be concerned about that possibility. To Edom will arrive too late, in which case we'll observe 2 days Machmas Vadai, and the people in Chutzlords, who always keep 2 days Rosh Hashanah, will establish their 2 days based on this model. We'll have a din of Vadai. Well, that's not the case. Say Narda. It never happened. It was never activated. It's not a real concern, and therefore, even those in Chutzlords who observe 2 days Rosh Hashanah, it's like any other 2-day Yom Tov. One of them is the Rosh Hashanah, one of them isn't. They keep them Machmas Safek, Machmas Minag, and the fact is nowadays we know that the first day is the real Rosh Hashanah, and the second day is only kept on account of the tradition, on account of the Minag, and therefore, just as I allow malachas to be done for non-Eichel Nefesh purposes in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda, if it's the second day Yom Tov, which only the Rabbanan will make, I apply the same concept to the second day Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so conclusion. What did we learn? We learned that, according to the Chachamim, a malacha on Yom Tov can only be done for Eichel Nefesh Mamish, not Machshir and preparatory acts or other Tzorchei Guf. According to Rabbi Yehuda, yes, you can. Even according to Rabban, on Yom Tov Sheni, it would be mutter. Regarding second day Rosh Hashanah, we have Machlekes in the Gemara. We also learned that all the tzarchi of the Chayla, all the Chayla's needs, and we're speaking even if it has no sakana involved, can be done through an akor. Let's go back to the Mishnah. There were 3 items, 3 chumras that Gamliel observed. So the second one we discussed, Zoik v'nes ha-menorah. Here comes the third. Vein oifen pitin gritzen el rukikin. You can't bake large size matzahs on Pesach. Only thin wafers, rukikin, as we do today. Only rukikin. Now the Gemara at this point figures there's a chametz concern here. The thicker it is, the more difficult it is for the heat to actually bake the entire interior of the matzah. So that was Rabbi Gamliel's concern in accordance with Shitas Beis Shammai. Turn around bottom. Beis Shammai oimrim ein oifin pasova bepesach. You can't bake a thick matzah on Pesach. I'm concerned about it developing into chametz. Ubeis Hillel matir, they say no problem. But kama pasova, what's the thickness that Beis Hillel allow up until what point? Amar from a tefach. A tefach thickness is the most you can get, because we find a precedent to a matzah being a tefach. Apparently, even a tefach can be a successful matzah. We find lechem apanim, which was technically matzah. It was how thick? It was a tefach thick. So apparently, up to a tefach, you're safe. Maskef Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, how do you compare the migdash to your ordinary person? Im amr bezrizin. If this was applied to the kehanim, or Rashi says Beis Garmu, who were craftsmen, they were experts, there was reason in how to make the lechem apanim. Yomer b'she'enan's reason. How could you apply it to ordinary people who aren't so zaris, and perhaps their thick matzah will turn into chametz? Im amr b'pas amela. If this was said regarding lechem apanim, which was produced from mixed and battered dough and flour, which mixes properly and bakes efficiently. Amela is lashon amela, so it's worked on properly. So there's no concern perhaps, but yoimru bepasha in amela, how can this be applied to ordinary matzah which doesn't have that procedure done to it? Perhaps it won't bake so efficiently. This was said regarding fully dried firewood, which bake efficiently, which heat efficiently, as was used in the Beis Hamikdash. How do you apply it to wood which isn't necessarily so fully dried and perhaps will not reach the same temperature as in the Beis Hamikdash? If this is said regarding the lechem apanim baked in the constantly heated oven in the Azor, how do you apply it to an oven which is perhaps cooler than the one of the Mikdash? If this was said regarding that metal oven in the Beis Hamikdash, which was very hot and efficient, who says you can apply it to ordinary clay oven? In the case you can't compare the two things, just because they allow the thick lechem apanim Beis Hamikdash, who's to say that we're meant to follow suit? Okay, before we continue, perhaps I'll take a look at Rashi, 2 lines from the top. So according to Beis Shammai, you cannot be oife pas over b'Pesach. Says Rashi, the more figures at this point, the concern is because she'ena yochel l'shomer mehachmetz. It's difficult to prevent it from becoming chametz. But still say no problem. Up until what point? V'kama pas over she'tiru Beis Hillel. How thick would work according to Beis Hillel? A tefach shkematzinim lechem apanim. Shu matzah. We know that lechem apanim was really matzah. It was called lechem, but it was really matzah. Kedamrin mechla manoches bois matzah. V'avya tefach, it was a tefach thick. Kishmoi, as it's called lechem apanim, which means actually panim has a face to it. Vein panim pchusim tefach, which is at least a tefach. So in order to get to deserve his name, he has to have some sort of thickness which presents as a tefa, as a panim, as a face, as a surface which appears like something that has significance, and therefore we know it was a tefach thick. Says Rav Yosef, how do you compare the Beis Hamikdash to ordinary matzah? Biz reason, shal beis garmu, shal umnen, was using medavar. Number 2, pasam mela. Shal yoton gimel meis shifa, shif biyadoi. They used to roll and rub the grain to get out the impurities. V'chamesh meis beita, 500 bangs, 500 kicks. Be'egroif with his fist. Shaf achas b'yish shtaim, shaf shtaim b'yish shalish. As the Gemara Menachos explains, it underwent a very rigorous beating procedure to purify it, and the dough was pure dough. It was an efficient batter. So we can allow ourselves to make it thick. Likewise, there were etzim fully dried firewood. In fact, actually it says mitesvav ba'av, starting from the middle of the summer, middle of Av, they would no longer harvest firewood for the Maracha, because at that point the sun's heat was slowly diminishing, and they would only take fully dried wood. And they would draw from the lishkas ha'etzim for all the needs of the baking needs of the Beis Hamikdash. That was properly dried wood and worked properly, worked efficiently. Likewise, at a tanocham, a heated oven, was on all day. So that was a real hot oven. Matechos, likewise, was made of metal. How do we know that it was made of metal? So they needed a klisharis to be mekadesh all these breads. So it was made of metal. Why? Klisharis techeres le'abdinam, because we can't make klisharis from clay. So it was a metal oven. It was a heated oven full of efficient firewood, cooking, baking an efficient batter, produced by zrizim. Of course, we can allow a tefach, but how can you compare it to your ordinary person? It doesn't have all these advantages. Okay, says the Gemara, you're right. Let's retract. Let's reinterpret this whole discussion. The Gemara figured was speaking about thick and thin. B'Shamai don't allow thick, B'Hillel do allow, just as lechem aponim. Well, we can't compare it to lechem aponim. Therefore, says the Gemara like this, in the first wide line. Amar Rav Yimra Ba'aba. You know what? Sha'alis. I myself asked as Rebbe, B'Yichud. I asked Rebbe in private. Umanai, who's Rebbe? Rav. It's referring to Rav, who was a Yimri's Rebbe. My pas ava. What does the term pas ava mean? Pas meruba. It doesn't mean thick bread. It means an abundance of bread. Too many. He doesn't need that many. He'd like to make lots of loaves today, more than he needs. According to Bishama, you can't. According to Beitzah, you could. And the reason is because adding more loaves in the oven increases and concentrates the heat, which benefits all the loaves, including the one that you really need for today. So that's Beis Hillel's reason for allowing. Bishama doesn't hold of this svara. Therefore, they don't allow baking more than absolutely necessary for Yom Tov use. So rather than speaking about thickness, rather than speaking about size, we're speaking about quantity. Ikadamri, there's another version. Amar Rav Yirma Ba'aba Amar Rav, he was quoting Rav, who said, Sha'alis as Rebbe B'Yichud. I myself asked Rebbe privately, Umanai, who is the Rebbe of Rav? Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, that was Rabbi Danasi. My pasava, what is the term pasava referring to? Pas meruba. We're not speaking about thickness, we're speaking about many loaves. But my correlate pasava, if that's the case, why does the Mishnah call it pasava? Thickness? Mishum denafisha belisha, because it has a thick, large-sized batter. Right? Produce many loaves, you have to have a large batter. That's why it's called pasava. But the point is not the size, thickness, rather the abundance, the quantity of loaves being baked on Yom Tov. Inami, another pshat would be ba'asri da'atana, because in the location where the Tana lived, pas meruba. How would they call lots of loaves? Pas ava correlate, they would refer to it with the term of. Okay, but the point is, instead of referring to thickness, we're speaking about the number of loaves being baked on Yom Tov. Michli, let's step back and think about this. What's wrong? What's the concern? Because he's involved in extra exertion and unnecessary tircha. More than he needs for Yom Tov. Okay, if that's the case, Ma'ir Pesach. What does that have to do with Pesach? Right? Mishnah speaks about things that you're not going to do on Pesach. Actually, the Beitzah. Right? The Beitzah, at the beginning of this piece in the Gemara, 6 lines from the top. We said, Tanu Rabbanim, B'Shama Oimrim, Ein Oifim Pasava Pesach, B'Sil Matir. Now we're speaking about, rather than speaking about thickness, we're speaking about many loaves, more than you need, that's the Shaila here, then that's a general Yom Tov issue. It's not related to Pesach, it's not related to Chametz. Ma'ir Pesach, why discuss Pesach? Afilu B'Shah Yom Tovim Nami, it applies to all Yom Tovim equally. Ein Achanami, you're 100% right. V'Tana Yom Tov Pesach Koi, the Beitzah was simply speaking about Pesach. The Tana happened to be discussing Pesach. That's why he made reference to Pesach, although it's really a general Yom Tov machlekes. Tani nami hachi. as we find in the following Beitzah, that it is a yomtiv machlokes, b'shama oimrim, ein oifen pas meruba b'yomtiv. You can't bake these extra loaves on yomtiv, not Pesach, on yomtiv, b'sil matir, and they allow it. So bottom line is, there's no discussion regarding thickness. It's a discussion regarding pas meruba, adding unnecessary loaves to the baking procedure. According to Beitzah, you can do it. Rashi says he's following the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda back on Yud Zayin Amanal. So Shita is Shimon Lazar. You can fill the entire tanner with pas because it's going to benefit the quality of all the loaves contained therein. Whereas Shammai don't agree with that concept. It doesn't justify, and therefore just stick to what you need. Now, the Ma'aser regarding the size, the thickness of matzah, so in Shulchan Aruch, it is stated that one should be careful to have his matzah only up until a tefach, but not including a tefach, for concern of chimutz. But the general minhag is actually not to get to that point, rather to bake very thin matzahs to minimize any concerns. However, the Sfardim, I understand, do allow matzahs which are slightly thicker than the absolute thin matzahs. Continues the Mishnah. After we learned the 3 chumras presented by Rabbi Gamliel, now we have 3 kulas. Af hu amar shlosh dvarim lahakol. Rabbi Gamliel added 3 kulas. Number 1, machabden beis hamitos. One can sweep around the beds upon which they would eat and drop crumbs on the floor. You can sweep the area on Yom Tov. We're not concerned about perhaps leveling the ground because we assume this place is constantly swept in any case and most probably leveled. Therefore, there's no concern of ashvuy gumois, of straightening out any pits and doing malachas. Likewise, you can burn incense on Yom Tov to spread this pleasant aroma throughout the home. That's called eichel nefesh. He allowed them to make a gdimikulas, roast a goat, a non-korban Pesach goat, after the Beitzah Mikdash. It's nowadays. You can roast it in a mekulas fashion, which was taking the innards and hanging it next to it while it's being roasted. It looks like a person who's armed with his weapons, in similar fashion as the korban Pesach was roasted. And he did it zecher, the korban Pesach. He allowed them to do this. V'oisen gdimikulas b'leili psachem on Pesach at night. V'chacham oishim, Chacham disagree with all 3. Don't do that sweeping because you might straighten out the floor, which is boina. Regarding the incense, we're going to learn the Gemara what the concern with that is. It's not something which is necessarily appreciated by all people. It's not a universal hana, does not conform to eichel nefesh. And regarding the dimakulas, it appears like he's doing a korban Pesach out of Yerushalayim. We don't allow it. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Asi. Let's go back to the mugmar, the fragrance. Machlokes legam. The machlokes in the Mishnah pertains to burning the mugmar, the fragrance, in order to impart that scent, to give over the besamim and have it absorbed into begadim. That's when we have machlokes. Chacham don't allow. That's not called eichel nefesh. Aval lehariach. But if the point is simply to spread that pleasant aroma throughout the home, that's eichel nefesh. Divrei hakol mutar. According to all shitas, it's mutar. Really, says the Gemara. Meisvei. Listen to this Beitzah where we seem to see otherwise, that the machlokes applies even in the case of lahariach. The Beitzah says, "Ein machabden beis hamitos b'Yom Tov." You can't sweep amongst the beds on Yom Tov. However, Rishal Beis, Rabbi Gamliel Machabdim, in the home of Rabbi Gamliel, they would sweep. So according to this version of the machlokes, Chacham don't allow. In Rabbi Gamliel's home, they would sweep the floors on Yom Tov. Omer Blezer Rabbi Tzaltek, he had a different version of events. He says, no. This was never done even in Rabbi Gamliel's home. In fact, many times, I was present. I followed my father into Rabbi Gamliel's home. And guess what I saw? Nobody swept the floors on Yom Tov. They had dirt floors, by the way, right? It's tiled floors, no concern. So even dirt floors were not swept on Yom Tov. Rather, Ella, how did they keep the floors clean? They had the following solution. Ella machabden oiser me'erev Yom Tov. They swept it clean before Yom Tov. And then, uperson alein sadina. They would spread some sheets over the floor to collect any dirt, any dust. Lamachar, the following day on Yom Tov, when the guests arrive, they would remove the sheets with the dirt on it. And you have a clean floor. There was no malacha done at all. Even in Rabbi Leil's home, I can testify. The Rabbana responded, nah, that can't be, because we know there's a machlokes regarding something to do with sweeping. Im Kain, if that's all they did after Shabbos Mutter, that would be put even on Shabbos. They weren't sweeping, they just laid the sheets and removed them. After Shabbos Mutter lasses came, that would be put even on Shabbos. The fact that we know there was a discussion and a machlokes regarding what occurred, regarding whether you can sweep, it must be that your account isn't correct, that they actually did sweep in Rabbi Gamliel's home, and the Chacham challenged that, as we have in our Mishnah. That's number one. Regarding the second item that we had in the Mishnah, which was Vig Mugmar, we learn like this: You're not allowed to burn fragrance on Yom Tov. In Rabbi Gamliel's home, they would place fragrance on coals and burn it on Yom Tov. So according to this version, which is Tanakama's version, there was a machlokes regarding burning incense. Chachamim don't allow, Rabbi Gamliel allows. Once again, this was challenged by a first-hand account of Rabbi Lezer Tzaddik. Rabbi Lezer Tzaddik. Pa'amim harbi, many times. I was there, nichnasti achar abba lebeis Rabbi Gamliel. I followed my father into Rabbi Gamliel's home. Nobody placed fragrance on coals on Yom Tov. They didn't burn it on Yom Tov. Rather, Ella Mevin Ardiskoy Shel Barzel. They would prepare in advance of Yom Tov. They would bring these metal shovels, these covered shovels, which were punctured. They would fill it with fragrant smoke before Yom Tov. They would plug up the holes before Yom Tov to keep the smoke within it. The following day on Yom Tov, all the guests arrived at the house of the Nasi. They would open up, unplug the holes, allow the smoke to escape. And there you go. You have a fragrant home. So the way I saw it, it wasn't done even in Rabbi Gamliel's home. Chacham said that can't be true, because if that's all they did after Shabbos Mutalasas came, that's not even on Shabbos. So what's the whole machlokes about? Apparently they did burn fragrance on Yom Tov itself to impart the pleasant aroma throughout the home. That was Rabbi Gamliel's shita. And the Chacham don't allow it. They don't consider it to be something that justifies a malacha. It's not eichel nefesh. Okay, that's the end of the bris. How does this pertain to us? Very pashut. What do we see in this bris? What's up for discussion? What type of fragrance? We're talking about spreading good aroma in the home. We're not speaking about perfuming the clothing. That's not the topic of discussion. We're speaking about lahariach, to be mahana the guests that arrive on Yom Tov. That seems to be the machlokes. Rabbi Gamliel allowed, Chacham did not allow. And according to Elizabeth Tzaddik, even that wasn't allowed. Right? According to his version, even that wasn't done in Rabbi Gamliel's home. In any case, this is certainly a kasha on Rav Asi, who tells us that the whole concern is only when you're perfuming the begadim. It's moiled, but lahariach, to spread pleasant aroma throughout the home, that's certainly a nefesh. That's what according to all sheet. It's pretty clear from the Beitzah that that's not the case. Answers the Gemara. You're right. Ella itma hachi itma. Rather, if we actually learned this halacha, the name of Rav Asi, it must have been said in the following way, a little different than the way we had it. Rav Asi machlekes lahariach. This whole discussion applies lahariach when he's burning the psamim to fill the home with a pleasant aroma. Then we have a shaila. Is it considered eichel nefesh or not? According to Rabbi Gamliel, perfectly fine, because you enjoy it. According to the Chacham, it's aser. It's not something which is universally appreciated, and therefore it's not considered eichel nefesh. It needs to be shavel akoy. It has to be something which is uniform, conventional hana, which everybody appreciates. That's the machlokes. Lo riach. As we find in the Beitzah, that they were involved in spreading the reach. Aval legamer aser, but if you're perfuming the begadim, you're being moiled reich, you're imparting fragrance into the begadim, to the kalim, that's called moilid. That's also even on Yom Tov. According to all shittas, that's not up for discussion. Says the Gemara Iboilu, we had another shaila. Ma'ula ashn. What about smoking? Rashi says smoking peris. So you're gonna smoke some food, smoked fish. So you take some fragrance, you put it on the coals, and you have the smoke absorbed into the peris. Can you do that on a Yom Tov? Is that called Eichel Nefesh? Ma'ula ashn. Rav Yirmeh ba'aba amar Rav Aser. Rav says it's Aser. V'shmuel amar mutar. According to Shmuel it's mutar. Before we get to the reasons, let's just finish the next two lines. Rav Huna amar Aser. Let's just figure out what's the problem here. Rav Huna amar Aser. Why? He's extinguishing. When he places the besamim on the coals, at that very moment, he's extinguishing some of the coals. Amalei Rav Nachman asks him, why are you only concerned about mechaber? V'nei mar, why don't you say b'meisha maver? The concern is because he's flooring up the fire. Why mechaber? Why not mavir, which is also a malacha? Amalei Rav Huna responded, you're right. You're right. Both are really a concern. I just decided to mention one of the two. Mechaber, tchilose mechaber. Initially, he puts out, when he throws the fragrance on the coals, he's going to extinguish it somewhat. V'sefer maver, and you're right. Eventually, it flares up, and there's another malacha happening there, lighting a fire. Now, of course, this would be mutar. Mavir is certainly mutar by Eichel Nefesh, and perhaps mechaber as well. So why can't you do it in this case? He's trying to prepare his food, ma'ashin his peres. Let's go over to Rashi. 5 lines from the bottom. Says Rashi, Ma'ula ashin. Ma'ula ashin peres ba'ashin besamim. Likloi tamaboisim. Can one put besamim on the gecholim and have the smoke, the aroma, absorbed and embedded into his peres? Can that be done on Yom Tov? Rav says aser. Why? That's not called Eichel Nefesh. The tafel giseru is some extraordinary delicacy. It's not your typical hana. It's not called a universal hana. Istinus is for this these special few. And since this process involves a malacha, as the Gemara explains, because he's somewhat putting out, he's extinguishing the coals and placing the besam on it, so it's a malacha. And if it's not considered eichel nefesh, it doesn't justify. According to him, there's no concern. Why? Why? If it's not something which your typical person does, why is it considered eichel nefesh? Listen to Rashi. The eichel nefesh, it is considered eichel nefesh. Why is it classified as eichel nefesh? V'roi aflani, because it's suitable for anybody, even for an ani. Everybody would appreciate smoked food, smoked salmon. It's not something which is commonly done. They don't have access to it, but they appreciate it. V'dami, it's similar to the case of the nizdam leitzvi b'yom tov. A person happens to trap a deer on Yom Tov. It's delicacy. You can go ahead and shecht it. Why? Although it's not something that everybody would partake in on Yom Tov. It's a question of access, not appreciation. Everybody would appreciate a nice cut of deer meat. That's called eichel nefesh. So, by adding this svara, what Rashi did is he answered a kasha. How could Shmuel allow this procedure, be ma'ash in the peres on Yom Tov? How does this fit with the chacham, the previous Gemara, who don't allow burning fragrance in order to spread that aroma throughout the home? Because it's not shaval chol nefesh. It's not appreciated by all equally. Why is this different? Why is this mutter? Says Rashi, a big difference. In the previous Gemara, not everybody appreciates. There's a lack of appreciation for reich of mugmar wafting throughout the home. That's not called eichel nefesh. But over here, theoretically, smoked food, smoked salmon, deer meat would be appreciated by all. The ani doesn't have access to this type of material, but theoretically, it's something which can benefit all, which can be appreciated and enjoyed by all. That's called eichel nefesh. Therefore, according to Shmuel, it's mutter. Rav disagrees. He says, bottom line is, it's something for the special few. It's not called universal. Okay, continues Rashi. What could be wrong with doing this? What malacha does it entail? The Fri Jun, as we just explained, he's putting out the coals, and if it's not considered shav l'chol nefesh, ein shav l'chol nefesh, v'asur lasas av malacha b'shvila. So he spoke about mechaba. Rav Nachman asked him, what about mavir? Flaring up the coals. V'neima mar b'nei shemavir ha'besamim shagam zav malacha. It's also malacha. He said, you're right, both are there. Amalei tchilos mechaba, v'seif mavir. Both concerns are present. I mentioned the first one, the mechaba, but eventually it flares up, and you really have mavir as well. Okay, so in summary, regarding mugmar, in order to be megamer, in order to perfume the clothing, that's moiled, that would be also according to all shitas, to fill the home with a pleasant aroma, we have machlekes. From Mulil allowed, Chum say it's not a chol nefesh, it's not shav l'chol nefesh, it's aser. We had a similar machlekes regarding smoking food on Yom Tov, which also involves malachis. Rav says it's aser, it's not universally appreciated, whereas Shmuel says, fact is, it is appreciated, perhaps not accessible to all, but it's considered shav l'chol nefesh, and it's mutter on Yom Tov. Okay, so what do we learn today? We had 3 chumris in the name of Rabbi Gamliel, the second of which was ein zoik v'nesam menorah. We spoke about a menorah which collapsed into pieces. According to Rabbi Gamliel, who follows Beis Shammai, we hold a binyan by kli as well. You can't reassemble it. Adding oil to a pre-existing lamp, removing oil from a lit lamp, would be considered mavir and mechaber. On Shabbos you can't do that. On Yom Tov, certainly you can't remove oil, because that's kibui, which is also on Yom Tov. Removing the kinba, the little ash sitting on top of the flame in order to brighten the flame, that would be mutter on Yom Tov. Regarding doing malachis, which are not directly for food preparation, for eichel nefesh, machshir eichel nefesh, preparatory procedures, or other things which enhance a person's day, tzarchei haguf, but not considered food activities. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's mutter. According to Rabban, it's aser. All agree that Yom Tov Sheni, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, it's mutter. Because it's only the Rabbanon, we can do these malachas even if it's not directly for eichel nefesh. Regarding the second day Rosh Hashanah, we had a machlekes. It's tzarchei chelik midan through a goy in all cases. The maskana was that the discussion between Hisham and Beis Hillel regarding pas ava had nothing to do with size and thickness. Rather, pas meruba was the issue, baking more than needed. According to Beis Shammai, it was asur. According to Beis Hillel, it was mutter. And again, briefly regarding the 3 things the Rabbi Gamliel was mekel, so we had sweeping amongst the beds, placing the mugmar on the coals, and the gdim kulos roasted in that manner on Pesach. Regarding the mugmar, the maskana was that legamer would be usher in any case, meaning imparting the scent into the begadim, that's moiled, that would not be mutter. That's not considered eichel nefesh. Regarding lahariach, spreading that aroma throughout the home, according to Gamliel, that's mutter. It's still considered eichel nefesh. According to Chacham, it's not shav l'chol nefesh, and it's also regarding being ma'ash in the peris. According to Rav Huna, it would be aser. Rav Huna, the name of Rav, it's not called shav l'kol. It's not universally appreciated and enjoyed. According to Shmuel, fact is, it is appreciated by all, although not accessible to all. And it's like capturing a deer on Yom Tov, which is mutter, and therefore there's no concern. It's considered eichel nefesh and mutter on Yom Tov. Kol tov to you, and much hatzlach.